So, Secretary Noem, what is habeas corpus?
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right
let me stop you, ma'am. Habeas corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
President
habeas
Lincoln
corpus,
used it.
Excuse me. Habeas corpus is the legal principle that requires that the government provide a public reason for detaining and imprisoning people. If not for that protection, the government could simply arrest people, including American citizens, and hold them indefinitely for no reason.
I saw this clip this morning, and I could not comprehend how the former governor of an American state, the former governor of South Dakota, the dog killer herself, the dog annihilator, is oblivious to one of the most basic protections that the American Constitution offers. Oh my God, how is this possible? It feels as though she heard someone else who doesn't understand what habeas corpus is describe like what Abe Lincoln did, and then just picked up the pieces to be like, no, habeas corpus is when the president gets to do whatever he wants. That's what habeas corpus is. I'm not American, but what that lady said sounded wrong. Yes, habeas corpus is a restriction on government, not an allowance of the government. It's a restriction on the government that impedes on the government's powers to erroneously claim that someone is a criminal and restrict your liberties. It is due process, and it goes beyond the American Constitution. It's a far older concept than just the American Constitution. Oh my God, it is like perhaps one of the most significant developments of the Western world. If you want to think about it as like the invention of the, Western liberal democracy, habeas corpus is at the heart of that. This is why I bring up the fact that courts existed even when kings did. Okay? Kings had overwhelming power, and yet courts still existed even when monarchies were around. Like, what are we talking about? This is like going beyond monarchies. This is something new. Like, we're not even trying to say, we got to roll time back to when we had monarchs. We're saying we want to roll time back to before we even had courts. Here, habeas corpus, from medieval Latin, you should have the body, is a legal procedure by which a report can be made to a court alleging the unlawful detention or imprisonment of an individual and requesting that the court order the individual's custodian, usually a prison official, to bring the prisoner to court to determine whether their detention is lawful. Habeas corpus is generally enforced via writ and accordingly referred to as a writ of habeas corpus. It is a summons with a force of a court order. It is addressed to the custodian, such as a jailer, and demands that a prisoner be brought before the court. It is one of the most important aspects of due process, and ironically enough, it is the exact opposite of what she suggests it actually is. It is literally the opposite of what she is saying. It almost feels like she learned what this concept was just to say the reverse of it. Like, how do you accidentally arrive at the exact opposite position? How can you be this stupid?
Let me stop you, ma'am. Habeas corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
President Lincoln used it.
President Lincoln used it. No. This is why I'm saying, like, she heard someone else try to describe this to her. The person that she heard this from probably was also wrong. Also, I think Maggie Hassan here should let her cook, should let Kirsty Noem cook. I don't know why she's cutting in to correct the record. Just let her openly say the wrong thing and let her look like a goddamn moron. She means Abraham Lincoln used habeas corpus is wrong. Okay? It's the opposite.
Excuse me. Habeas corpus is the legal principle that requires that the government provide a public reason for detaining and imprisoning people. If not for that protection, the government could simply arrest people, including American citizens, and hold them indefinitely for no reason.
They fully know what habeas corpus is. They are actively trying to manufacture cassette and mislead the public to destroy habeas corpus. This has been their goal all along. No, they do want to destroy habeas corpus. They've openly said that they want to suspend it, okay? But that's not what Kirsty Noem is doing here. She's just stupid. It goes along with the agenda of the administration, But that doesn't mean she is aware of what she's doing. No, she's just dumb. Because the correct way to mention it would be to say, Lincoln suspended it. It had to be suspended. And this is a time of unprecedented danger. And that's why, regardless of all of the hurdles that the radical terrorist Democrats want to present against our big, beautiful agenda, we must do what is right in this time of unprecedented violence. That's the reason why we have to revoke habeas corpus. This is impossible. You have to sometimes forego these kinds of constitutional protections in an effort to make sure that Americans can live a life of peace and security. That's what you would say if you know what the you're talking about.
Habeas corpus is the foundational right that separates free societies like America from police states like North Korea. As a senator from the live free or die state, this matters a lot to me and my constituents and to all Americans. So Secretary Noem, do you support the core protection that habeas corpus provides, that the government must provide a public reason in order to detain and imprison someone?
Yeah, I support habeas corpus. I also recognize that the President of the United States has...
Yeah, she just learned in real time because Maggie Hassan up and literally explained it to her.
And again, I want just to make clear that it is critically important that even if the president tries to suspend the right of people to know why they've been detained or imprisoned, if a federal court reverses that order, that you will follow that order. And I hope all members of the administration will, because it's obviously critical that some of the people, for instance, who've been deported by mistake, who didn't get due process.
Once again, I have to go back to the basics and describe why due process is important. Due process is important because without it, any member of law enforcement or deputized person can just decide that you are a criminal and without trial, without due process, expeditiously send you to a slave labor prison in El Salvador. And without due process, anyone and everyone could be Hamas. Without due process, anyone and everyone could be considered a non-citizen. Because without due process, you can't prove that you are actually a citizen, or you can't prove that you are actually innocent. This is precisely the reason why it's a terrifying thing that the Trump administration is trying to entertain.
Your campaign of fear and repression is eating away at foundational values of our democracy. Back then, it took one voice, Attorney Joseph Welch, to cut through the hysteria with the simple question that marked the beginning of the end of that shameful era. He asked Senator McCarthy, "Have you no sense of decency?" And I would ask you the same, Secretary Rubio. But you have shown through your words and your actions what the answer is. And I have to tell you directly and personally that I regret voting for you for Secretary of State. I yield back.
May I respond?
You may sit.
Well, first of all, your regret for voting for me confirms I'm doing a good job based on what I know.
Well, that's just
your
a
record and
flippant
what you
statement,
stand
Mr.
for.
Secretary.
Can I respond?
I mean, it's a flippant statement, yes, but it quite literally is the underlying value of right-wing politics is that, oh, I'm triggering the libs, so I must be on the right side. This is how this works. When you don't have like a discernible worldview or any sort of interest in world building, any sort of future that you want to show, that you want to work towards, your entire worldview revolves around being at contest with those who do have something. I've triggered you, so I must be doing a good job then. The things that Van Hollen brings up in his speech aren't necessarily just like, Marco Rubio, you are a bad guy and you're triggering me. He's saying you have betrayed principles that you claimed you cared for. You have shown yourself to be a hollowed out human being, which, by the way, for someone like myself, obviously we already knew that. I don't trust Marco Rubio. I never trusted Marco Rubio. This was expected of him, right? But like as a senator, this is senator versus senator statements. Like he's not saying you triggered me. He's saying you have betrayed all of the principles that you claimed to represent when we voted for you. They should not have voted for him, for the record, including Bernie Sanders. 99-0. Don't forget, 99-0 is how this man was appointed to Secretary of State. If I can see it, and I'm not a senator that's spent 40 years in Congress, how did Bernie Sanders not recognize that this would come back and explode in his face. He just was like, oh yeah, he's a war hawk. He'll do the right thing. He'll push for the American agenda. And that's the best we're going to get, instead of some, God forbid, weird guy who might every now and then shift American foreign policy in a direction that might not favor our military industrial complex. Like, none of it makes sense. You look indecent when you vote for a war hawk like this. You had no reason to vote for a war hawk like this. It's stupid.
Secretary Rubio.
Well, I can go on. I mean, there's other things here. We spent $227,000 for Big Cat's YouTube channel from USAID.
The is Big Cat's YouTube channel? Wait, what? Dude, what the? Oh, is it Big Cat's Rescue? Wait, is this it? No shot. This is 100 and... Oh my God. Wait, what? Ain't no way. No, this got to be an opportunist who slapped on this after the fact. The USAID thing on the banner after the fact. No. They're trolling. They must be. Oh my God, I don't think they're trolling. They have all these PSAs in different languages. Oh my God. Big Cats, Big Opportunities, natural security, from natural security to national security. Big Cat Rescue, known for its advocacy and sanctuary for big cats, has a long-standing relationship with USAID from their website. Oh my God. Oh. What's wrong with it? What's wrong with it isn't necessarily that the federal government is spending funds on or spending resources on like wildlife preservation. What's frustrating about it is that just like everything that the government spends money on, it is an entirely idiotic endeavor to waste any dollar on a YouTube page with 134 subscribers, dude. What are we talking about? It just makes me so mad as someone who makes YouTube videos. Like, I understand the cost of making something like this, okay? It could be spent better. This is not one of those instances where it's like, well, why is, $1 million going into R&D for cat piss? Grants like that are good. They advance scientific discovery. This, on the other hand, Big Cat Rescue is a different YouTube. Oh, it is? No, I don't think this is the one that's like linked back to USAID. I think it was the channel that we looked at. Yeah, it was Big Cat, Big Opportunities, chatter. It was the previous channel. No, it was. It's this, not Big Cat Rescue. It's the other one that we looked at. It sounds stupid. I think you're falling for Rubio's narrative, big guy. Oh, I'm not. Also, $225,000 is pennies. It's nothing to the federal government. So him pointing to that is so idiotic, okay? They're not cutting funds in a meaningful fashion. Make no mistake. They are not doing that. They're just lying about it. It's nothing. It's pennies on the dollar. But it's just yet another instance of like classic government expenditure, silly government expenditures.